It's getting late now, but hello, it's getting late now. I'm doing a quick Premier League predictions for week 4 this weekend. Hello, guys, how are you doing? The Premier League football is back. We are looking forward to a few thrilling matches, including a Manchester derby on Sunday, the 14th of September. So it's going to be a busy weekend. So first up, we got Arsenal versus Nottingham Forest. This is perhaps a lot more intrigued for this one than was to be expected a couple of weeks ago, with Ange Postecoglou now in charge of his first Nottingham Forest match. And Arsenal have started their campaign very well with a 1-0 defeat of Manchester United before a 5-0 hammering of newly promoted Leeds United, but there will be concerns about their mentality and their performance level after a loss to Liverpool in their final game before September international break. And Arsenal suffered a 1-0 defeat to Liverpool due to a late free kick scored by Dominic Szoboszlai in a game which many critics would suggest the Gunners should have pushed on a bit more. As for Nottingham Forest, over the international break, Nottingham Forest have decided to part company with Nuno Espirito Santo due to off-field issues after a magnificent season last year. He has been replaced by the former Tottenham Hotspur manager Ange Postecoglou. Postecoglou is known for being a technical ideally playing a front foot and attacking style of football regardless of a match situation. Forest have been appointed the Australian after having arch protagonist Nuno at the helm, and so that they'll be intriguing. Arsenal have been guttily of a lack of fluency for a while, and with the Gunners spending big on the attackers such as Ubriche, Eze and Nuno Madueke and Victor Gyökeres to provide a point of the difference in the final third this time round. Nottingham Forest are unlikely to have their solid defensively shape entirely undone, with a few days of Postecoglou arriving with the visitors having already become quite entertaining, so that shouldn't change either. But with Arsenal still firm favourites at the Emirates Stadium, but I can see Arsenal to win and both teams to score. I'm going for Arsenal to win by 3-1. And second up, let's move on to the Vitality Stadium where Bournemouth versus Brighton. This should be a quite fun watch for the neutral after two sailors of members so-called Big Six last time out, and now faced off in a South Coast derby at the Vitality Stadium. And AFC Bournemouth may well have lost the likes of Kepa Aberije, Dean Housey, Labour Balleri and Miles Kirkes, as well as Dango Otarata. But the Cherries' biggest piece of business was ensuring that the coach Andoni Oliveira remained in the dugout. After an entertaining 4-2 loss to Liverpool on the opening day, Bournemouth have since then defeated Wolverhampton Wanderers and then Tottenham Hotspur by 0-0, as they once again try to push for European spots in the Premier League. As for Brighton, after a positive first season in charge of last year, Brighton and Hove Albion have once again performed well at the start of the season, all belted with frustrating drop points from dominant performances in their opening games against Fulham and Everton. However, prior to the September international break, the Seagulls managed to come from behind to defeat Manchester City 2-0, one at the Amex Stadium, with the German attacking midfielder Brian Jan Grundy snatching 3 points. So Andala Alero's style of football has been decided as the future of football by Pep Guardiola, and like any almost inventable, a bit of a brilliance, but the future is now. Brighton played more deliberate passing style in contrast to Bournemouth's energy, and that probably falls into hands of an intense Cherries, especially with their home advantage. They should have been favoured to continue a fine start to the season, but I'm going to settle an offence for it. I'm going for a lot of goals. I'm going for 2-2 draw. And then Crystal Palace will face Sunderland. This is an intriguing clash as Selhurst Park, as Crystal Palace get back to the pitch after a month of speculation ahead of the visit of Sunderland down to Croydon. Palace, having kept Mark Gill and therefore kept Oliver Glasner, Crystal Palace have started this season without a defeat in their opening 6 matches across all competitions, having begun with a defeat of Liverpool in the Community Shield at Wembley. But since then, the Eagles have defeated Frank Dirk Stand in the playoffs for the Europa Conference League, while this beginning their Premier League campaigns with draws against Chelsea and Nottingham Forest before hammering Aston Villa. As for Sunderland, having gained promotion back to the top flight via to the playoffs, Sunderland have not rested on that and have transformed their squad with over 115 million spent by Regis de Libris to ensure that the Black Cats remain in the Premier League. They have started the season with a 3-0 hammering of West Ham United before a reset of their expectations in a 2-0 loss at Turf Moor against Burnley, and then produced a steering and dramatic comeback to beat Brentford at the Stadium of Light. So Crystal Palace, having dealt with months off field, and certainly of their Europa League demotion and transfer rumours, but can now probably look forward to get to grips. And with a hugely exciting season, they continue their campaign with the visit of a Sunderland side that, given their investments and the personnel that they have now, have been seen avoiding relegation as the bare minimum. However, Palace have to remain favourites at home, but I'm going for a 2-0 to the Eagles. And next up, right, let's move on to the new stadium, the new Hill Dixon Stadium, Everton versus Aston Villa. This is the latest instalment for the most played match in English football, as Everton faced Aston Villa for the first time ever at the new Hill Dixon Stadium this weekend. David Moyes is back in charge of a new era at Everton, and Toffees were left frustrated on the opening day of the season. But Jack Grealish at the heart of it, things have turned around, are beginning to look exciting this season. They defeated Brighton over Albion by 2-0 before breezing past Mansfield Town in the EFL Cup, but then produced an entertaining performance to defeat Wolverhampton Wanderers by 3-2 at Molineux. As for Villa, since they played Unai Emery and his Everton as his Aston Villa side have blasted of a loan of additionals of Harvey Elliott and Jadon Sancho from Liverpool and Manchester United respectively, as well as the signing of Victor Lindelof at the centre-back. That freshness is required because Villa are yet to score in the Premier League this season, with goalless draw on the opening day against Newcastle United being followed by a 1-0 loss to Brentford and then a 3-0 defeat to Crystal Palace. The aforementioned revival of Grealish is coming with the fact that Everton now have very entertaining squad for the neutral that is all boasted the likes of Kieran Dewsbury-Hall and Ivan Neild, as well as Tyler Dibbling, back at home against similarly now vulnerable opposition. But they want to get on the front foot, but for probability's sake, Villa are likely to eventually get themselves on the score sheet. And Unai Emery should always be back to find solutions to problems, and that should lead to quite a fun watch for the neutral or Merseyside this weekend. I'm going for Everton 2, Villa 1. Right, Fulham will face Leeds. This is an intriguing contest down in the capital city as Fulham as well, coached by Marco Silva. Welcome to steady but strong Leeds United side at Craven Cottage this weekend. Given the neutral ceiling imposed upon Fulham, is there always a risk that things begin to stagnate? But Marco Silva is a good coach, and the Cottagers once again appear to be respondingly strong side again this season. They rescue a last gasp point against Brighton over Albion at the Amex Stadium on the opening day, before then sharing a 1-1 draw with Manchester United, but then they played well before scrambling to a 2-0 loss to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. As for Leeds United, were dominant in the Championship last season, all belted. They've won the league title and goal difference despite collecting 100 points, with their underlying data even suggesting that 100 points was a bit of underperformance. Daniel Farke's outfit have started this season steadily too, and with a 1-0 defeat of Everton, courtesy of a late penalty at Allen Road, a goalless draw at home to Newcastle United, sandwiching forgivable 5-0 defeat to Arsenal at the Emirates Stadium. But Leeds will be content with their points collected thus far, but they'll be slightly concerned that they could become relevant on their home advantage of Allen Road. And another trip down to the capital city is a tough test, and Fulham will be keen to avoid stagnation. The signings of Samuel Kouhrez and Kevin should help, and they are firmly favourites to get themselves a first win of the campaign. But to do it the hard way, I'm going for Fulham 2-1. And next up, Newcastle United versus Wolves. We have two winless sides meeting up at St James's Park this weekend as Newcastle United take on Wolverhampton Wanderers on Teesside in a crucial match for both. Eddie Howe has done a magnificent job in charge of Newcastle, and the Magpies prepared for a return to the Champions League when they play Barcelona, next Thursday. They'll be lining up a home game against Wolverhampton Wanderers where they now kick on. A dramatic 3-2 defeat at home to Liverpool, which they came from 2-0 down to level and then conceded at 100th minute, has been sandwiching between goalless draws on the road against Aston Villa and Leeds United so far this season. And for Wolves, Victor Pure did an excellent job in charge of Wolverhampton Wanderers last season, but this summer has been departures of Ryanair, Ante Nora and Montañez Cunha, as well as Nelson Semedo. And it has been a tough start to the campaign for Wolves. The Midlanders began their campaign with a 4-0 humiliation at the hands of Manchester City at Molineux, before a 1-0 loss to FC Bournemouth a week later, and then followed by a 3-2 home defeat to an impressive Everton side. Victor Pure is known for being a bit of a character, but his negative and nasty side didn't quite come out last season, and with Wolves easing away from the bottom three, they may not be the case this time round. They now face a Newcastle side they haven't necessarily played poorly, but despite the off-field transfer speculation, but this is a good chance to put things right, a pile misery on to Wolves. Newcastle now lost to Isaac. He's going to Liverpool, and now they brought in by Yo Visa. But I think Newcastle will run riot to say 3-0. And then we have a tasty London derby to take place at London Stadium, as West Ham United looking to kick on and welcome to Tottenham Hotspur to Stratford this weekend. And ahead of September international break, West Ham United managed to dispatch of Nottingham Forest by 3-0 at the City Ground, courtesy of 3 late goals scored by Lucas Pratica, Jarrett Bowen and Callum Wilson. The Hammers have started the season with two woeful performances and results. Hammered 3-0 by Sunderland at the Stadium of Light before they are suffering through. Then suffering through a 5-1 demolition by Chelsea at home, with pressure having grown on Graham Potter. Thomas Frank has replaced Ange Postecoglou over the summer, and the former Brentford boss has overseen some excellent Tottenham Hotspur performances thus far. They must bounce back after a 1-0 loss to FC Bournemouth a couple of weeks ago. They had shared a 2-2 draw in the UEFA Super Cup against Paris Saint-Germain before losing on penalties, having been 2-0 up, and before a 3-0 hammering of Burnley, and then an impressive counter-attacking 2-0 victory over Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium. West Ham and Tottenham supporters aren't overly found each other, and it has developed into a furious rivalry both and off the field over the years, and West Ham will hope for a positive and hopefully atmosphere in order to kick on, but underlying issues at Forest have been clear to see for a while, and even more in the wake of Nuno's departure. So that 3-0 win may not have been as impressive, but it seemed, especially with that manner with that game, and Spurs should bounce back themselves to get back on track here. And I'm going for Spurs to bounce back 2-1 Spursy. Right, Brentford versus Chelsea. We have a couple of London derbies this weekend, and one of them comes at the MG Tech Community Stadium as Brentford face Chelsea in a West London derby clash. Over the summer, Brentford lost manager Thomas Frank to Tottenham Hotspur, as well as the key first teamers Mark Flecken and Christian Newdegaard, and Brian Mbeumo and Yawavisa with the former set pieces coach Keith Andrews given his first managerial role. Andrews have overseen 2 defeats on the road, with a 3-1 loss to Nottingham Forest. Then they have since sacked their manager, a gutting 2-1 defeat to newly promoted Sunderland, sandwiching a 1-0 victory over still goalless Aston Villa at home. As for Chelsea, having backed up their Europa Conference League triumph by winning the FIFA World Cup in the summer, Chelsea heading into this campaign without a much of a pre-season, and that perhaps showed with an opening day draw against Crystal Palace. They have, though, since began their ease to their work of a 5-1 demolition of a helpless West Ham United at London Stadium, being backed up by a comfortable, all-belted, controversial 2-0 victory over West London rivals Fulham at Stamford Bridge. And Enzo Maresca's style of football can often be overly deliberated to the point of being tenders, but his controlled passing game has begun to take over Chelsea. They are often simply the dominant team in games. They face a Brentford side that once again seek to be reactive and the counter-attack, but a lack of quality by Mbeumo and Weiser in a transition, and a Chelsea victory seems like a straightforward enough to outcome for this one. I'm going for Chelsea to win 2-0. And then move on to Sunday. Following their promotion back to the Premier League, Burnley have appeared to be reasonably competitive as they now take on Liverpool at Turf Moor in Lancashire. Scott Parker's Burnley have conceded just 16 goals in the Championship last season, and that level of reactivity and defensively organisation in what the Clarets will rely on to remain competitive, to try and push away from the bottom 3 and the danger zone. The Clarets were woeful on the opening day with a 3-0 loss to Tottenham Hotspur before an impressive performance to defeat Sunderland a week later. They were then exceptionally, unfortunately, to be beaten 3-2 by Manchester United at Old Trafford As for Liverpool, 100% defending champions since they last played. Liverpool managed to complete 125 million signing of Sweden international striker Alexander Isak from Newcastle United. They were unable to get a deal for Crystal Palace captain Mark Gale over the line, but the Reds, with Arne Slot in his second season and now with the transfer squad, have begun defence of their title by not necessarily looking supreme, but still managing to win 3 from 3. Mostly defeating Arsenal by a goal to nil at Anfield. Burnley will sneak to sit back and to be defensively here. I wouldn't be shocked for Parker to switch the system to back 3 just to ensure there is no space for Liverpool's abundance of attacking stars. Flawless. Liverpool will head to Turf Moor looking to find some real fluency going forward aside with their neutral quality and firepower. A lack for cohesion and Burnley's organisation could make it harder than expected for the visitors, but they should with ease. I'm going Burnley 1, Liverpool 3. I'm going 3, an easy win for Liverpool. Come on, Liverpool. Come on. That's my team, Liverpool. That's the team I support. And then, lastly, this is the first Manchester derby of the season. There will be a hope for the neutrals that isn't attendance. It has been recently, but they need to build on poor starts. Man City will face Man United. There has been a growing feeling that things for Pep Guardiola and Manchester City are coming to an end with the signings may not necessarily very City's key men behind the scenes departing and results still not overly improving. A round of 16 exit at the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup has been followed by City beginning this season with 2 defeats on the opening 3 matches, most recently giving up the lead at the Amex Stadium and losing 2-1 to Brighton and Hove Albion. And for Man United, after a woeful first 6 or so months as Manchester United boss, Ruben Amorim's start to this campaign didn't help the pressure on his job, with a humiliating penalty shootout loss to League 2 side Grimsby Town in the EFL Cup, grabbing the headlines. In the Premier League, the performances have been reasonable, but they still only collected a point from the games against Arsenal and Fulham before the Red Devils then snatched the all first 3 points against Burnley with a second half stoppage time penalty. In pre-season, at times in the league, United have shown improved signs of cohesion. They have shown more automatic patterns of playing involving Brian Mbeumo in particular, but that perhaps better than what City have shown in the last 12 months, given the fact that Amorim has already shown he can do a job on Pep's side, having done so twice in a month last autumn. It could well be a good value back against the host at the Etihad Stadium. I'm going for City win 2-1 to bounce back. That's my predictions then for week 4 for the Premier League. Leave them in your comments below, guys. You don't need to be nasty, but you need to show a bit of respect on the YouTube channel, and that is part of the rules. But we'll see you very, very soon. Bye. Good night.